MCC, one of the biggest Minecraft competitions ever. A collective group of over 100 creators and entertainers all competing in teams of four in a variety of games to see who has the best teamwork and overall skill. One of these games is Parkour Warriors, a game that is so hard only 2 people have ever won it in a competition, Pete with 1 win and Dream with 3 wins. After more than 50 hours of gameplay, 700 gigabytes of footage, and 1 case of carpal tunnel, I realized why. A few weeks ago, I was scrolling through YouTube and I happened to see a video of Dream beating MCC Parkour Warriors, and I wondered how well I could do this myself because I'm decently good at parkour. I decided not to watch the video because I wanted to make my own strategy of completing it. So, I went to Google, searched MCC Parkour map, downloaded it, and began my first run. Now, I don't have the actual footage of my first run because I was initially thinking that I'd just beat the parkour map in an hour or two, upload the good run to YouTube, deleting all the bad runs before it. I was incredibly wrong. The first 6 levels of the course were very easy. Even without any practice, I was able to complete them, only failing once or twice. So I started to make ways to pass them more efficiently, sprinting the entire way through, jumping past some parts, and just making sure I was able to do them consistently so I didn't waste my time on unnecessary parts. Stage 3 is honestly the easiest stage by far, yet the one that I got tripped up on the most. The first one, the double weaver, is the hardest of them, because of a learning curve where you have to stop sprinting so you don't overshoot the slime and just fall onto the blocks. Otherwise, it's very easy. The next 2 levels are basically freebies. Level 2 in particular is so easy that whenever I failed it, I would just feel like the worst Minecraft player ever, and have to take a second to reevaluate my life choices. Oh, come on, man. I think the main reason that this course took me so long to beat was because I was very inefficient with my time. I didn't really practice the levels individually. I just went through the course over and over, and once I got to the new areas, I ended up failing. I had to start the course again. This helped me get the initial areas down to a T, but wasted so much time in the long run because I kept failing over and over, having to do the beginning parts hundreds of times. And I honestly think that it would have taken me 20 hours less if I had just given each course a specific time for practice. These stages, much like the first, were very easy and something I could do in a regular survival world. I was able to complete them very consistently right off the bat, and they weren't something I would fail on a regular occurrence. I felt that these levels were just transition levels to the much harder ones. I also like these levels because they have a very nice challenge curve to them. It starts off with a few easy freebies, then gets to stage 5-1, the helpful dolphins, where I would mess up here and there, but generally got it every time. Finally, it gets to the last 2 stages. In stage 5-2, which is my personal favorite stage, it is a decently hard level where you have to jump around pillars on iron bars and skulls, jumping across the larger gaps between them. I immediately had an affinity for this level and was able to get it down within 5 minutes of first trying it. After that, I got it with almost 100% accuracy, only having a few minor hiccups here and there. Finally, there is level 5-3, the wall clinger, which was an interesting one. It was a basic level where you jump from ladder to ladder with an incrementally bigger gap between them. I was able to complete this level right off the bat, but whenever I'd have a bad run or mess up the level at all, I would start panicking, going faster trying to save time. But this would lead me to wasting 30 seconds to a minute on it, ruining otherwise perfect runs. I don't know why this particular stage was one I often messed up on over and over, but it was. The next levels are what I like to call the Big Four. It was at this part in the course where the difficulty started to skyrocket. All of these levels on their own were not too challenging, and on a regular parkour map where you only have to beat the levels once, they'd be relatively easy. But when put all side by side on a map where you're on a time limit, they can easily make or break any run. It starts off with an easy half neo jump where you jump around a block to get to the next ring. Early on, I'd made a strategy where you can sprint by each jump instead of stopping to take your time on each one, which could save you a good chunk of time, but it was very inefficient compared to another strategy that you could use, where you would stop and individually take your time on each jump. So I stopped using it towards the end of my playtime. After that, it was followed by 6-2, the lateral jumps, where it was a series of jumps that were relatively easy. This was one of my most inconsistent levels at the start, but as I practiced it more, it became much easier. The third level was 6-3, the tuning forks. This is a level where, similar to the last one, I started off by being very bad at it. But different from the last one, I literally could not pass it for a long time. This is one of the only levels that I took time specifically to practice it. After 15 to 20 minutes of practice, I was able to beat it, but not very efficiently. Only towards the end of my playtime did I actually get it down and was able to complete it consistently. Before that, it was basically a coin toss of whether I'd do good at it. The final level of the Big Four was 7-1, the Sneaky Jumper. This level was a very hard level that I never really understood. I took my time on every jump, making sure that I positioned myself correctly, yet I could never do it consistently. But just like every other level, I got it down to where I only failed once or twice every run. These levels weren't particularly challenging, and I never really messed up any good runs to them. It starts off with level 7-2, which initially I could not wrap my head around. The third jump I just couldn't do. But after I talked to my friend a bit, he reminded me of momentum jumps. And I never really watched many parkour videos or studied the momentum physics of Minecraft, so it never really crossed my mind that I could do that. After I realized that, I was finally able to beat the level. 7-3 is just another freebie that I'd only really fail if I wasn't paying attention, and it only cost me a few seconds if I did. 8-1 wasn't very interesting, just a series of a few Neos which I was able to do right off the bat, and didn't really have much trouble with. Level 8-2, the chain pipes. Not my favorite level in the world. This level was the worst. I hated every second of it. So many times I'd get to it and lose a flawless run, even after I'd spent an hour practicing it. The jumps were so precise and made you freak out and mess up the easier ones. Not only that, but you'd have to do multiple of them. And on top of it all, the final jump was a 4-block jump between two 1-block platforms. This was the cherry on top that was never asked for nor needed. Hours were wasted on this level. Hours. And eventually I did something that I didn't want to do. I watched the video of Dream completing the course. I wanted to be able to solve every level on my own and make the most efficient way of doing it. But after a while, my resolve failed and I just watched the video. To be perfectly honest, it didn't help all that much. But what it did do is tell me that it was possible, and that pushed me enough to finally beat it. And once you do something once, it's easier to do again. Eight three. I thought the chain pipes was gonna be the hardest level. No. Not even close. Initially, looking at the stage, you'd think it'd be easy. Just a few jumps to the top, and you're done with the level. However, this wasn't the case. These jumps were possible, and I was able to do them easily enough. What made this level very difficult was the fact that there were so many. These jumps are very precise. You jump too early, you hit your head. You jump too late, you don't jump at all. These same jumps over and over. Not only was it hard, but if you fell 2 jumps. Meaning bare minimum, you had to make 3 jumps for every time you fall. And that's not even considering if you fall more than 2 jumps. All these factors combined made this level the hardest level. Like the pipes, I spent hours trying to get a good run, and after a while, it seemed like I really couldn't do anything. I was averaging out getting there with 4 minutes to spare, which is pretty good, and goes to show how hard it really was. I was able to complete the whole course in 6 minutes, yet failed on one level with 4. It was at this point where my will to keep going hit an all-time low. I mean, I'm all for grinding for long periods of times in games, but this was just so much. I'd been playing consecutively for days, averaging about 8 to 10 hours a day. Sometimes when I'd pass a level that I'd been stuck on, it gave me more inspiration. But those last levels, there wasn't really anything happening. The monotonousness of it started to affect me mentally. A lot of the time, I'd completely zone out, forgetting why I'd restarted runs only seconds before, and I'd lose track of the time. Hours would go by without me realizing it, and after achieving nothing, this started to scare me, and I almost threw in the towel because of it. But decided that as long as I pace myself and take a break from it, I'd be able to beat it later. So I took a few days off. But no matter what game I was playing, the fact that I hadn't beat it stuck so clearly in my mind. So I got back on and started playing again. At this point, I'd beaten it 3 times already, but they weren't within the 10 minutes, so I didn't count it. The last few runs weren't really fun. They just felt like something boring that you had to get done, like a school project. Finally, I got one good run. I got there with plenty of time to spare and got extremely lucky with my jumps. And once I finally got to the top, nothing. I wasn't excited to complete the level or happy that it was finally over. I just quietly exited the game and went to bed. Here's the full completed run. I edited a little, so if you want to see the full unedited version, I'll put it in the top line of the description. Even though I didn't have a big reaction like some people do when they complete something, I was still proud that I did it. And if I had won a day earlier, I would have been shouting in joy. But being that I'd beaten every level in the course multiple times over, and I'd been spending hours upon hours obsessing over it, it was just a little bland. But this was still an accomplishment that I was happy for, and later I bought a cape to commemorate it. I instantly look back at the map, and I'm glad that I completed it. This video took a lot of time and effort to make, so if you could subscribe, that'd be really appreciated.